This is the story of Olivia's song and her Cobble Hill townhouse in Brooklyn. Renovated by the architects at Leroy Street Studio, who had to be sure to preserve the London plane trees in the backyard, this home blends the privacy of an 1840s townhouse with the airiness of a loft, resulting in a thrilling hybrid of new and old. Let's see how she lives in it today.
My vision for the renovation was to preserve what made sense to preserve, but also change and intervene where it didn't make sense to intervene. One of the biggest design moves for the house were these London plane trees that someone had planted, I'm going to say, 100 years ago. So we wanted to preserve that moment and the experience, and like you would engage these trees throughout. I've always wanted a black kitchen and had multiple iterations in my mind of different things that I would do. Black melamine, honed granite, none of those things felt right for this house. So we chose materials that were very contextual. So the soapstone was relevant in the 1800s. This house was built in 1840. The shaker detail, the brass, the waxed oak, it just looks like it could have been built today, or someone could have built this kitchen in 1840. If I need a cookbook, I can just grab it from the kitchen because the shelves go all the way up, and there's all the cookbooks are adjacent to where the pantry is. The room downstairs, that's the family room where the double height bookshelves are, is much smaller than you might think just from looking at it. And I didn't think that we had enough space for a pull-out library ladder. And the ladder invites climbing. So much of family living happens down there. There's TV watching, rec rooming, and we really wanted to connect all of the spaces. So over the double height space, I didn't want anything to interfere with my view of the books or the volume of space. And so I chose a light fixture by Ben and Asia Blanc. And it's a very low light, sculptural moon. It gives this glowing quality to the ceiling that's a little extraterrestrial. I chose the mirror that's over the mantelpiece here with some difficulty. Having an over mantel mirror is a very classic and traditional townhouse decoration. However, I didn't want one that was too traditional or too gold or too over mantel. This one is by a designer named Ian Stell. It opens and closes and has the peach and gold tones which are echoed throughout the house. It changes, the kids love to play with it. It's very lightweight, spins around. We probably change the orientation and configuration every couple of days. The original staircase was in very good shape for this house. Something about the mahogany handrail and the way it fits into your hand, you could never make anything better. There are some times when in design you don't want to do greatest hits because it's just so cliche, but in this case it's so classic and so perfect that you can't take that away. We talked about the bridge unendingly. My husband, who's actually afraid of heights, doesn't like sitting adjacent to the glass railing. It's something that I had learned from an interview that was given about Paul Rudolph. And one of his guests had talked about hating all the glass and feeling like he was going to constantly fall off, but there was one part that was plaster, and he said it made him feel safe, so I knocked off Paul Rudolph. The master bathroom was the combination of the kitchen and part of the living room of one of the old apartments. The bathtub came from, I think, Cole Barron's house in western Pennsylvania. We really loved that connection because my husband, he was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and then I was born there. When we got to the boys' floor, we demoed everything that was there, which was one of the small apartments. And we just saw the ceilings, the room, the open sky. All of a sudden you're above the other townhouses and there's a lot of light. And we wanted to preserve that circulation and make it a lot more fun.
I'm in the fantastic garden of Olivia's song and her family's townhouse in Brooklyn. The garden here has been designed really around the preservation of these two beautiful London plane trees. Brook Landscape did the magic. When you're doing a renovation, you don't have to completely decimate the whole thing. You can absolutely save beautiful elements that add to the juxtaposition of modern and old.